Hello guys, this is Mr. Erosion here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to recreate the Trapcode Form experiment I did yesterday. So if you didn't already see the video, this is basically what it looks like. So as you can see, the Trapcode Form particles are synced to the song, and also there's a Optical Flare that is optional in this project. You can add in the background. It's also synchronized to the song by its brightness. And yep, so to start that off with, you got to go into After Effects, create a new composition, and choose whatever dimensions you want. I'm just going to go by 1280 by 720. The duration doesn't matter, or depending on your song, you can change that later on. And right away, we're just going to choose a song. So I'm going to use Dat Stick Kill the Noise as my song, really good song. And we're just going to drag that in there. And then what we want to do is click Layer, New, and Solid. And the color, you can just leave it black, it doesn't matter. Make sure it's comp size, so just click that. Click OK. And actually what we're going to do is rename this so we don't get confused. We're going to rename it to Form. And so then you want to go to FX, Trapcode, and Form. And right away you're going to see this box thing that looks like it's really messed up with a bunch of dots. That's basically the particles before you do any modification to it. So if we open up the base form tab, you can see the size for X, Y, and Z. Now for X and Y, for my video I did X was about 380 and Y was like about 250. So I'm just going to modify that to what I think it was. So yeah, that looks pretty much good. It doesn't, this is fully customizable, guys. You can basically do whatever you want with this. This is just showing you how to do what I did, but really this is an endless plugin that you can just modify completely. So right here in your particles X and particles Y, these show you how many particles are in each orientation, and the particles in Z, that basically tells you how many layers of this grid you're gonna see. So if I take a camera by going Layer, New, Camera, and if I would show you really quick, you can see that there are 3 grids here, and basically modifying the Z axis, just putting it down to 1. We'll put 1 grid because that's all we want to do right now. You don't need 3 really. And I'm just going to delete this camera here, so we don't need the camera. And yeah, so that's all we have to do for the base form. You can just minimize that now. Under Particles tab, this is where you choose your color. We'll come back to that after. Make sure your particle type is on sphere though. And we're just going to go down to, I believe it was fractal field. And we're going to change the effect size and effect opacity both to 1. As you can see, it does this nice looking shadowing effect to it, but it also adds a displacement. So if we move the displacement, as you can see, it does that, and this is kind of the effect that we want. But I'm going to come back to this in a second first, because right now we got to go to, I believe it was disperse and twist. Yes. So disperse, you just want to leave that at 0. Twist, however, you want to change that to 10. So it'll give you this nice little twist to it, which adds just that extra creativity that'll give it that perfect look. So if you come back to our fractal field, which we were at before, as you see, the displacement, it gives you that nice effect that we wanted. So basically what we're going to do is get the song keyframed to this so it moves to the beat of the song. But actually first I'm going to change my color. I'm going to pick a nice blue, why not? But so as you can see, your transfer mode is on add. You can change that if you want. Personally, I think add is the best one. But you want to kind of go for a darker color, like so. That looks pretty nice. And yep, so as you can see at the displacement, I'm going to put it around, I'd say 150. Just about 150. And that looks really nice. So now what we want to do is on the song layer, first you want to make sure that you have the section of the song that you want to be synchronized to the song, to the Trapcode form. You can do the whole song if you want to, it's up to you. I think this song is perfectly the whole way through, so I'm just going to leave it like this. But you're gonna right click on the song and go to Keyframe Assistant, convert audio to keyframes. Yeah. So, but before you do that, actually, you're gonna want to make sure that this is the only sound file that you have playing in the timeline, because if you have any more, it'll sample from all of them, and you don't want that. You just want keyframes made from the audio layer that you want of the song. So you're gonna click Keyframe Assistant, convert audio to keyframes, and it'll just make a null object really quick right here called audio amplitude. So if you click U on the keyboard, you can see that there's all these sliders here. So there's left channel, right channel on both channels. You don't need left and right channel, so I'm just gonna delete these. Now you're left with both channels. So if you look closely, there's a bunch of keyframes here, and basically, if we open this in, if we open the sliders in graph view, you can see all these lines. So you want to find the high points, preferably not the highest one, kind of like a medium high. So I'm gonna go around, I'd say 50, 51, 52. So right here on the sliders thing, you want to hold Alt and then click on the stopwatch, and down here you're going to type in linear parentheses value comma and the high of 52, or sorry, you want to start with the low one, so you want to type in a low unit. So I'm going to do about 3 and a high of 52, and then comma, you want to do, this is where the values are going to be modified. So right now this is at 150, so I'm going to do about 125, no, maybe not 125, maybe about 75 for a low value and about 200 for the high value. And you're just going to close the parentheses. Basically what this does, it takes anything that's 3, anything that's a low value on this chart, turns it into a 75, and everything that's a higher value turns into a 200. So then we're just going to click away from that, and you can close this graph view now. And so also, if you see when you add the displacement from form, it automatically moves around like this. So basically now what you want to do is just keyframe the displacement amount by holding, what you want to do is just click on the stopwatch over here on the form layer on displacement, and you're going to click U on form, and right here where it says displace, you're going to hold Alt on the stopwatch and left click, and right here this pick whip thing, you're going to drag it onto the sliders from the audio amplitude. This might seem complicated, guys, but it's really not. And yep, so if you look right away, you can see that it's synced now. So right here you can see that the values are being modified according to the song. So I'm just gonna render out a little bit here. And as you can see, let me zoom in. As you can see, it's synced to the song. It's really nice. But now we're gonna add that nice extra visual effects that we're gonna play around with. So for instance, over here on the side you can change the we're gonna minimize the fractal field because we're done with that. But actually wait, sorry, right here the flow X, Y, and Z, this basically shows you, because if you play it back you can see that it's not really moving in any particular direction, it's just moving everywhere. But if you want to have kind of a wind effect to it, like in particular, you can just drag on the X value. The more positive you give it, the more it'll move towards the right. So if we play it back now, you can see it's moving towards the right. But for this I'm just going to leave it at 0. I like 0. And yep, so it's really up to you guys. You can change it however you like. And now I'm going to go into the spherical field, because this is how I made the beginning, basically how it kind of like came out from the center. If I replay the video really quick, as you can see right here in the beginning, it comes out. So basically what I did for that is, in After Effects, under the spherical field, I had sphere 1 and sphere 2. Sphere 1, I just used it to give a nice sphere in the middle, so I'm gonna just bump this strength up slightly, just like that, and I'll give it that nice little sphere look in the middle. Doesn't really do much, but yep. And for Sphere 2, we're gonna bump up the radius big time. And the higher it goes, the less you see, basically. So if you look, it does that kind of effect that we want. And the strength, we're just going to leave it at 100. Or sorry, we're going to leave that at 0. Oops, hold on a second. I'm sorry. We're going to leave this at about negative 30. Why not? It doesn't really matter exactly depending on your radius. This is just how I did it, guys. You mess around with it all you want. But yeah, so we're just gonna keyframe the radius right here. So we're gonna start that at a high number, and what we're gonna do is click on the stopwatch and move forward a little bit. So I'm just gonna move forward to about, say, almost 1 second. So just about there. And then right here we're gonna bump it all the way back down to 0. So basically now, if you see, it'll kind of do that in the beginning for the first second, and then it'll start playing. So it's kind of like a nice fade in. And you guys can use this for anything pretty much. Like, it looks like a black hole. You know, it'll just come out like that, like, and then you can, I don't know, mess around with that for a sci-fi film or whatever. And yep, so that's all we're gonna mess around with the spherical field. And under rendering tab, we're gonna make sure that the rendering mode is on full render plus DOF smooth. So that's basically, we're gonna add some depth of field in a minute. So for the depth of field, we're gonna add a new camera by going to Layer, New, Camera. Click OK. And now in the drop down bar, you want to go to Camera Options, and Depth of Field, you want to turn that on. And now you just want to mess around with these settings, guys. Just mess around with the blur level, the focus distance, and the aperture. Also, you guys can zoom in a little bit on just make it slightly bigger if you want. It's up to you. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit. And yeah, so I'm just gonna mess around with this a little bit till I find what I'm looking for. It's really personal preference, guys. I want to try and have it so the back is more blurred than the front. Mess around with this a little bit. I'll be right back, guys, when I figure it out. Well, when I find my how I like it. So yeah, I'll be right back. Alright, guys, I'm back, and yeah, so I got my depth of field already. I hope you guys got it all perfect also. So I'm just gonna bump up the blur amount slightly over here, and that's pretty much it for the depth of field. It won't really look like anything right now, but later on you'll see it looks pretty nice. So for this, we're just about done, and we're just gonna create a new composition by grabbing composition 1 into a new comp to create this. So what we're going to do now is create a new adjustment layer, and we're going to go to Effects and Video Copilot, Optical Flares. This is really optional, guys. It gives it that really nice look though. Actually, what we also have to do is create Layer, New, Solid, and this is going to be your background color. So I'm just going for another black because I like black, and we're going to drag that all the way to the bottom. And as you can see, we have our optical flare, and we're just going to make the render mode on over original so you can actually see the background. And then we're going to go to options over here, and we're going to modify our flare. So I have the Pro presets 1 and 2, and my optical flare, I'll put it in the description. I kind of made this one custom. And yep, so it's just got all these stuff, guys. You can copy it if you want, but I'm not really going to go into detail on optical flares, so I'm just going to use that and drag that all the way in the center. And we're going to lower some things here. We're going to change the color to a nice blue. We're going to take the sample tool and we're just going to mess around with it a little bit. That looks nice. So now all we have to do is just modify the brightness of the flare so it moves according to this song. So if we go back to comp 1 here, and we're just going to copy the audio amplitude layer and paste it over here. So now if we click U and go into the expression slider, we can see what we typed in earlier has the same values. Now this was set for the displacement on the form. So we're just going to change this to the brightness. So I want my brightness to vary between 80% brightness and 100% brightness. So we're just going to change the values at the end here and just click away. Do not click enter, because if you just saw what I did, it kind of just screws up what you type. So you just click away. And yep, so now this is set for the brightness of the flare. So if we go back to our adjustment layer and go to the brightness, we're gonna click on the stopwatch here, and then we're gonna click U on that layer, and then right here on the stopwatch you're gonna hold Alt and click the left button, and you can see this again. We're just gonna drag the pig whip to the slider and click away, and as you can see, the brightness is now set for the song. So actually, one more thing we're going to do, we're going to go back to composition 1, and we're going to go to form, and right up here under before what we did in the base form, I'm just going to keyframe we're going to sync also the x-axis to make it kind of grow and shrink to the song as well, or along the sides, not the top, because the top just looks weird for some reason. So we're just going to copy and paste the audio amplitude layer one more time by doing Control-C, Control-V, or Control-D for duplicate. And we're just going to click U, and we're going to go into our values again and change this. So my value was at 380, so I'm going to put that 380 for my low value, and for my high value I'm going to make it 500, and click away. And now under form again, we're going to click on the stopwatch here. Sorry if I'm going fast, guys, I'm under time limit here, almost hitting 18 minutes. And so with the X selected, we're going to go back to the form layer, double tap U, and on the X axis we're going to hold Alt, click the stopwatch, and drag the pig whip to the slider like so. Click away. And now if we look at it, it moves to the sides a bit more and it looks nicer. So now we can go back to composition 2, and it's looking pretty good, guys, so far. And actually what we can do is adjust the... Actually, no, we're not going to touch that. But now what we can do is some color correction that is optional. It looks pretty nice by itself like this, but I find that it'll look even nicer with some color correction. So we're just going to drag this into one more comp, like so, and we're going to go to layer. Sorry, we're going to go to effects, magic bullet looks, and looks. Now this is optional. If you guys don't have magic bullet looks, you can just skip this step. For the guys that want to go the extra step, watch this. And yep, so we're just going to choose a simple color correction preset that I have already. I'm not going to post that because I do not own it, but I'm just going to choose a nice one here. If you guys have presets, I'm sure you guys do, just look for the best one that you have and fiddle around with them a little bit till you find the nicest one that you want. So I'm going to try and go for the one I had yesterday. I don't quite remember which one it was. It was something like this, I believe. No. It was a nice one. I believe it was one of these. I'll be right back when I find it, guys. Alright, guys, I'm back, and I found my color correction, and I just exited out of Magic Bullet Looks. But one more thing I forgot to mention is if you go back to Composition 2 on the adjustment layer that you have here for the flare, we're just going to add a blur to it by going to Effects, Blur and Sharpen, and we're going to add a Gaussian blur. And we're just going to pump that up. Sorry, not too much, just to a point where it looks nice. We're actually just going to bring the layer underneath composition, so it's behind it. But now, as you see, the flare does, sorry, not the flare, the form does not seem to look quite nice. So we're going to right click on the composition that the form is on, go to blending mode and add. So that's going to give it that nice look. It's going to look a little bright, which is okay with the color correction after. But if we go back to the adjustment layer and increase the blurriness, just so it goes good with the depth of field. And yep, so we can go over here to Comp 3, and as you can see, it looks pretty damn nice. And one more thing we're going to do to this is we're going to add some nice letterbox bars on the top. So in the effects panel on the side, we're just going to type in letter, and we're going to drag the letterboxer. You might not have this, but if you do, this is really nice. And we're just going to mess around with this a little bit. Drag the aspect ratio. We're going to put this on on that. And we're going to mess around with this to find something nice, and I'm just going to keep it at that. So if I give you guys a little render here really quick. Now this is very intense on your rendering, so it might take a little bit of time to preview or render. It took me about 2.5 hours on a pretty decent computer, so it is a heavy render, but in the end it gives you a really nice final product. And if we just preview that really quick, it looks really nice. And thanks for watching, guys. My name is Mr. Erosion. See you next time.